Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the MyFootballWriter YouTube channel. Not a podcast, but we've revived the big question. Yay! And what is the big question for this week? Well, it's an arguably controversial one. It's a question that's on the minds of a lot of Norwich City fans' minds. Is the youth pathway blocked? Now, we didn't really know who to talk to about this, but actually, we have an in-house academy expert, Mr. Youth Norwich himself, Will Grant. Will, how are you doing today?
I'm doing absolutely great, thank you. It's finally good to be back doing this series, despite the first one actually featuring on your Twitter page in quite a negative manner. So hopefully this one can do better than that one as well. But hopefully it doesn't make an appearance on your Twitter page again, because that'd be quite annoying.
Yeah, no, fair. That was my bad. But no, I mean, if this question goes the other way, and the youth pathway isn't blocked, then we'll have lots of youth players that are featuring the first team and being really fantastic. So really, that wouldn't work. So you're safe this week. Before we get to the actual big question itself, which we will answer at the end, we'll break it down into some sort of smaller questions, just sort of some bite-sized chunks, just to analyze this kind of in a bit more detail. So, generally, like first question, objectively, not subjectively, do you think there are any players actually in the academy at the moment that are A, sort of first team ready, and B, in a position that could fit in to the first team? Is there a player in there that could provide a solution to the current first team?
Well, if you say objectively, then I think we'd have to say no, right? Because obviously, Johannes Hoff Thorup doesn't actually rate some of these players to play now. I'm not saying he doesn't rate those players overall, because that's not true. I just think right now, as you've seen in the team selections as such, there isn't really any academy players which have played prominently this season. Obviously, we've had the great success stories of Jamal Lewis, Max Sirens, etc. That season was absolutely filled with them, and that kind of made that season so special. But right now, I think objectively we had to say no. But that also doesn't mean that the players amongst the academy aren't good enough, because that isn't true. We saw actually last game against Brighton that Lucy Mahuvu, Elliot Miles, they both featured on the bench as well, which was fantastic. Obviously, Gabe Forsyth as well has been fantastic when he's come into the team. Albeit I have seen some slight criticism about him, which I think is a bit unfair. I think he's played very, very well considering he's 18. I thought personally against Cardiff, he absolutely controlled the game from deep areas. And it also feels like as well, if he scored that long shot against Blackburn, then I think he'd be viewed a bit differently towards he is, especially given that was our first home game of the season as well. So I think there's definitely players who are in and around Torrup's thinking, but right now, obviously, they aren't close to the first 11, really. And I don't think the ideal scenario from Torrup, given how his media was so oriented towards the academy during his first interview at the club. I don't think he would have been absolutely thrilled at the fact that probably already that they probably spent probably up to £15 million, £20 million on signing new first team players. I reckon he much rather would prefer those players to have come from Colney, but unfortunately that isn't the case. That's probably annoyingly for Torup actually, because right now I'd probably say the academy isn't at its strongest in terms of conveyor belt wise, but I don't think that is a massive concern, given I think Ben Napper will probably take quite big pride in it, and I think he'll probably want to address it as well in the near future as well. So right now, maybe it isn't as filled with talent as it maybe was 2 years ago as such, but definitely I can see that being addressed in the coming years.
Yeah, and you obviously said about the players that have been coming in the summer. It's very clear that the profile of the players that have been bought are young players. We wanted to move away from a very senior squad, a 20-year-old Cernats, a 21-year-old Forsen, an 18-year-old Schwartau. It's It's clear that Thorup likes a younger profile of players, and obviously at Norwich had a very successful, very successful academy, one that actually played Norwich earlier this season. Yeah, I mean, you kind of touched on it in terms of his press conference, how he was very much sort of mentioning the youth as kind of something he wanted to utilize. Has that kind of emphasis kind of been a bit of a kind of disappointment, a bit sort of anticlimactic to you, or do you think it's just kind of a slower process and one where he will kind of utilize the academy eventually?
I think naturally, mate, it's disappointing because given what actually all the build up to when Tart was going to get announced, we were seeing all these graphs and stats about how much youth players he integrated. So naturally, that is a disappointment. You would have liked to have thought anyway that the likes of maybe Jalen Warner, John Tompkinson, Kenneth Bower, Finley Welsh, etc. Maybe during preseason you would have hoped that maybe they might have featured more, but obviously that wasn't the case. So of course it was a huge disappointment, but as I said earlier, I don't think it's by choice. I think bringing new players through the door is what JHG wants to do, but unfortunately, he's looked at the squad quite detailed, during pre-season, and he's seen that maybe there are players that are quite good enough for my system yet. And I think also as well, it's also very difficult as well because his system is a very unique one, especially for the academy actually, because I'd probably say actually last year, it wasn't really like a single style of play. It was all quite mix and match. Maybe more oriented towards trying to get results. So it was quite a hard one to try and pinpoint about what they were actually trying to do in the long term from an academy perspective. So now that's kind of been changed this season, probably for the best. You've probably seen some under-21 players find it maybe a bit difficult at times to try and get to grips with the system. And it feels like, as well as the first team maybe going through a transition, definitely the academy are as well, because it is obviously, as I said, quite a complex thing to kind of get your head around at first as well. Obviously, we've also seen the likes of a new head of academy come in, Dean Rastrick from Tottenham, as well as another under 21s coach, Ollie Lee as well. And as well, of course, we can't forget Sidney Jackson as well, who's now with the under 16. So it's been quite a lot of change for the academy, and I don't think that's kind of been thought out as much by maybe the fan base. I think, obviously, it always feels like there's quite a lot of pressure for players to kind of progress through the ranks and trying to make an impact, because I think Norwich's recent success stories have kind of maybe elevated the expectation, maybe that but there's always kind of like players in and around the system. I remember listening to I think it was maybe some media by the BBC actually during the Sheffield Wednesday game, and I remember that game we had quite a lot of youth players on the bench. I think it was Lucy Mahuvu's first game with the first team squad, if you will, and there was quite some discourse I think on Canary Call saying about why isn't there enough players there, and they almost feels like the points that were being made, there wasn't much consideration about how you're actually going to kind of use it. There was quite a lot of like vague statements saying, "Oh, why isn't a place available?" Well, there's so much which goes into it as well, and I think given how much change was at academy level as well, I think maybe I personally think that the academy does have a bit of time to try and get things right, and hopefully can kick on in the next 2 years, because I definitely think Ben Napper will want to address and maybe increase the level of quality and that conveyor belt as well, because that's ultimately what the club wants to do in the future.
Yeah, and you touched on the frustration of the fans, and I think it does come from the successes that we've had, Aarons, Lewis, maybe not Godfrey, but yeah, I mean, even you look at someone like a Ken Abbo, who all summer had a long drawn out contract debacle that got magically resolved, and we were all sort of thinking, it wasn't, apart from Cernat, a striker brought in the summer. Maybe that's, a solution. This is a player who has now come back off loan from Stevenage after only scoring one goal. And it's kind of a middle ground where you're kind of like, oh, well, maybe he's not quite ready yet, or he is ready and he deserves, an opportunity. But at the end of the day, the priority for the football club is the success of the first team. And we've seen it even in this January that Ben Napper is not messing around with his first team transfers. A reported €7 million potentially on Mate Jurasek, not confirmed yet, but maybe when you're watching this, it has been confirmed. Obviously, we've been told by media outlets and the Antinacios that there will be money to spend in January for the first team, which for everyone concerned with Norwich City is fantastic. Do you think it's not so fantastic for the youth team? Do you think that our flexing financial muscles will limit the potential opportunities for academy products to make the step up?
Yeah, obviously, when you hear the amount of money that's being spent on first team players, it isn't ideal, especially when you're so wanting the academy to do well as a collective, really. But I also think as well, some of that money will probably be spent on trying to upgrade the quality in the squad in the under 21 squad. Sorry, because obviously it feels like, especially there's a lot of varying profiles in that squad. You've got a lot of maybe physically dominant profiles, and then you've got a few technical profiles, and at times it's kind of evident in the way they play that maybe they aren't maybe on the same wavelength yet. They're still trying to get to grips with the system. There's been so many ideas tried by the under 21s this season. They've really tried to vary each player's position, and I think maybe that at times has maybe hindered some players' development. I think of the likes of Charlie Wilson, where he's been played as a centre back, right back, even at times in that like hybrid role, similarly to what Callum Doyle does at left back, but essentially on the right hand side. And then there's also a time when he plays CDM, and that just isn't his natural role. I can name many other players as well. So I feel like it's just about trying to bolster the quality of the 21 squad as well. And I don't think, although I'm like you, Jack, as well, I want Norwich's first team to be absolutely brilliant. I dream of seeing my team in Europe. I dream of seeing my team beat the big guys in the Premier League as well. So, of course, there's always a feeling where maybe at times short-termism is definitely involved, and I need to try and bolster the quality of the first team as well. But I'm not really too affected as such by the amount of money which is being splashed for the first team, because it feels like I also see quite a lot of money being invested in the under 21 squad as well. You look at some of the fees, small fees, and the investment which Norwich are willing to do to try and bolster quality. Look at the likes of Gabe Forsyth, Lucian Mahuga this season as well, Callum Fisher even as well. All those guys were bought for small fees, and they've all had relative degrees of success in their Norwich careers, albeit it isn't long. But obviously, Callum Fisher's rise now, and Lucian Mahuga is on a very, very good trajectory as well. And I definitely do feel like Norwich as a club, naturally, are always going to be like a top-end championship club, and maybe at times, maybe one of the a Premier League club as well at times as well. And the roles of everyone in the academy is to try and produce players to that level, albeit they'll all constitute success as well of seeing some of their like academy graduates play across the English period. Obviously, a great example yesterday was actually Nelson Kumbeni. He actually started at Anfield for Accrington Stanley against Liverpool. So I'm sure they'll also see that as a big success, seeing these guys make a name for themselves across the English game as well. But naturally, the main goal is to try and produce players for Norwich, as that is our model. And I don't think deep down that maybe Norwich's hierarchy are actually over the moon by having to spend so much money already. But I think that is just naturally where the club is at the minute. And I definitely hold the mindset. I reckon if the likes of Abu Kamara, maybe Tom Dixon Peters, Tony Springer, that kind of quality of age group 2 years ago when he scored so many goals, I think maybe if that was JHT in charge, maybe they might have been used more frequently. We don't know. So, although it's not ideal seeing all these players being kind of being touted for Norwich for big money, ultimately, I think Norwich have got no choice at the end of the day. Despite me finding it quite hard to say that.
Yeah, and I think as well, like for this season, where Norwich fans have set their expectations out early doors, we're not kind of pushing for promotion. It's very much kind of mid-table championship mediocrity. The argument is that maybe this is the perfect season and the perfect platform to experiment, to integrate, and just to give it a go. I mean, I remember Jamal Lewis really sort of featuring towards the end of Farke's first season, and he then bedded in properly for the 18-19 season. So yeah, there's definitely an argument to say that whilst we're not wholly focusing on promotion this season, that there is an opportunity. But obviously, like we've alluded to before, with the big investment in the first team, what is the club goal? It is to get up and stay up. Now, obviously, we've done the going up bit, utilizing the youth academy, as we've mentioned. It's potentially the staying up bit, where even we look at someone like I'm going to yellow card myself, an Ipswich Town who have spent over £150 million in the Premier League just to build a very good championship side. I can't remember a single academy graduate that's come through in their team. I might be wrong. Maybe Will's an expert in Ipswich's academy. Actually, Luke Wolfenden, maybe. And Harry Clark. I'm not an expert on Ipswich's academy myself either, but the point is, in terms of getting up to the Premier League and staying up, is the biggest challenge for us and for any club at our level. Will Grant, as a Norwich City football supporter, do you believe that the best thing for the academy is for Norwich to not get promoted?
Well, I think the obvious answer to that is probably yes, because the quality is lower, meaning that those players can get more opportunities. But at the same time, as well, as I said earlier, like I'm a Norwich fan, most importantly at first, and the idea and what I want for the club is for it to be successful, and I want it to be in the Premier League. But when you look at analytically, the best chances is for these players to develop is by staying in the EFL. I mean, look at how many players that EFL has produced over the years, and obviously we've had a great example with that year in 18-19 when we saw maybe 4 of those players really step up as well. So ultimately, I want Norwich to be successful, but there's absolutely no hiding about the EFL is a fantastic first introduction to football for many players, really. But the most important thing which Norwich have to get right is they have to try and produce players to our level. And it feels like now, especially with Johannes Hoff Thorup, the impressions that I get and what I hear is that he's so demanding and he wants to try and reach such a high level. And it feels like training is so vitally important. I think there's been examples this year, for example, where maybe some players have been absolutely fantastic for the under-21s group, but maybe the reason why they aren't involved with the first team really is because their training levels haven't been as maybe promising as others amongst the squad as well. So it takes quite a lot, I think, for Norwich to really bring in players into that first team squad. So I think Lucy Mahuvu, Elliot Miles, and Gabe Forsyth deserve quite a lot of credit actually because his standards seem so high. I know he's so willing to try and give youngsters a chance, and he wants to try and get them within the first team. But I think his standards are very, very high as well, and that's probably why we haven't seen the likes of Tompkinson, Warner, etc. make the first team, because although those guys have produced quite I won't say quite a few, but some performances where you've been encouraged. I mean, you look at Tompkinson's game against Burnley, played under Dean Smith. We all thought that was kind of the breakthrough for him to really try and get a spot, and obviously Warner against Fulham in the cup as well. So there are some sample sizes there where both players have played so well. But I think at times as well, if those players are performing in JHT's training and how intense it is and how probably full of quality it is, then those players deserve an absolutely huge amount of praise, because I reckon his standards are very, very high, and I think we're seeing that as well. I know obviously the under-21s haven't had a great season in terms of results. Of course, that isn't a main indicator about how you're going to bring players through to the first team as such, but I think it does probably speak of volume, especially that league position in the under-21s league. I think they're currently not in the qualification places. So at under-21s level, there are 26 teams in the league. Top 16 go through for the qualifying stage, and I think Norwich are currently just outside that. And I would probably think that their league position is probably where we're at as well. They just haven't been as good this season as what they have been in previous campaigns. Although they are trying to play out from the back as well at times, I think probably it's been really good actually, because I feel like at the start of the season they were probably more of a transition-based team. The likes of Philly Welsh is running power, Kenneth Burr when he was around for August, and Amon Smith as well. That front three was very counter-attack based orientated, but actually during the December month, maybe the team has started to play a bit more and they started to kind of trust each other and get used to the style, but maybe results haven't kind of translated. So it's been a bit of an up and down season, but there's still quality firmly there. But yeah, as you say, it's Premier League is so difficult. I mean, look at the FA Cup results just recently. Obviously, we're losing 4-0 to Brighton. I think Bournemouth beat West Brom 5-1, albeit there's probably some rotation from those Championship sides each way, but it just states how incredible that league is. And I think when you look at the likes of Tyler Dibden playing so well in the Premier League as well, I think you just got to just be so full of appreciation for that, because it's so hard to do. And I think obviously Norwich's model is to try and bring players through the academy into the first team, but it feels like maybe if Norwich have a good season next year and the academy is still in quite a transition bit of their kind of journey, then maybe we won't see as much academy based players through the first team, but obviously time will tell.
Yeah, and you mentioned about the high standards that Thorup has. I think if we all of a sudden swapped the first team for the under-21 team and results weren't going our way, we'd get lots more grumbles and discontent on Canary Call. So you can never satisfy everyone. I think the general kind of expectation is integrate one or two. I think in terms of the big question itself, we'll obviously get to that. One final small question for you, Will. If we potentially agree with our null hypothesis, which is the youth pathway is blocked at the moment, what is the sort of future of that pathway sort of over the next season, 2 seasons, 5 seasons, for instance? Where do you see that developing?
Well, more importantly, mate, I think it depends what league you're in, right? Because obviously, if you're in a Premier League, it's much harder to do and trying to bring those players through. But if you're in the Championship, then I always think Norwich do have a mindset to try and bring those players through. If they're good enough, I'm very hopeful about the academy in the future. Albeit it is quite maybe a bit standard at the minute. There isn't too much movement in a good sense. There's I think, watching the under-18s this year as well, albeit the results haven't been groundbreaking, but have been solid. They played 10 league games this season, got 10 points, and they're also through to the next round of the FA Youth Cup against Bournemouth on Wednesday as well. So hopefully they go well in that, and they'll get another Carrow game against either West Brom or Stoke. So that's very encouraging. Yeah, there's quite a lot of long-term projects who I've been really impressed with. I'll give you a few names to look out for. So I can make myself look good maybe in 2 years' time, or make myself actually look like quite an idiot. So we'll see. But the likes of that's an Oscar I've got here. Finn Cork scored about 30 goal contributions for the under-16s last season as well. So a very talented player there. He's also got 6 this season as well, despite having an injury as well. So he's had quite a good season. Rio Mundell, a very, very good midfielder, box to box, high octane, great energy and legs to get across the pitch. Also is the younger brother of Romain Mundell as well. So quite a good footballing family there, and they've both had a very good season. And as well, Sonny Rowland as well, a very nice CDM who can play out from the back nicely. Play for the lines nicely. Got a great tackle on him. Bit of an Alex Tete type in aggression levels, but also got a good eye for a pass. Obviously, I want to say I don't want to put any pressure on them, but Bedfords have been very good, and all of them are getting professional contracts. I know Roland, Mundell, Cork have all got them. Obviously, when Baton Oscan turns the legal age to get a pro deal, he'll get a contract as well. So very encouraging from that front. They've actually, it's been a very, very good season for the under-18s. They've got a lot of players who are scoring goals. I think they've scored there's been 12 different goal scorers across the team this year as well. So quite good actually, considering they've only played about 15 games as well. So that's strong. So you've got the actual homegrown players actually in your academy who are playing well. And I believe that those players can probably make quite a few appearances for the under-21s, maybe come 2025, which is highly encouraging, actually, because all the players I've named there are first-year scholars as well. So that's ever impressive. Obviously, as well, Norwich did spend quite a bit of money, or some fees, should I say, or likes of AJ Bridge, Billy G, what a name, of course, and Brandon Forbes. Norwich are obviously quite interested in the Scottish market, given obviously Gave the side success as well. Also, I'd like to say Brandon Forbes has been quite a good player for the team as well. Very, very dynamic, and his profile varies to other players in the squad. More of a 1v1 winger, kind of what Norwich actually needed in the first team, I would say, as of late. But obviously, he isn't just quite ready yet, albeit he showed great promise in his early games as well. So there's a decent core of players there that have got potential, especially in under 21s group. Also, look at the likes of Caleb Anston, the goalkeeper. His improvement probably in the last 18, 24 months has been fantastic. He used to be quite unreliable on the ball, maybe in his first years in the academy, but now he's probably so composed. It's been a great transformation from him, a great shot stopper as well. And obviously, Caleb has featured prominently as well for the first team, obviously going to match day squads as well with the team, which is quite a big step for him. Obviously, I don't know how much chance he might get now due to Vicente Reyes coming back, but obviously, I'd imagine he'd probably play a similar role to what Alfie Mayer did. Not Alfie Mayer, Archie Mayer did, sorry. So I can imagine Caleb playing quite frequently for the under-21 squad whilst also travelling with the team as well. So as well as a decent amount of core players you've got there as well, in Aaron Smith as well is a good player. I won't try to name all of the squad, but there's a decent core of 21 players there and a lot of underrated players there that are playing well and are on track to be very, very good players, doing quite well. It's just about how you can also give those guys a bit more help as well and trying to strengthen the conveyor belt, because although there's quite a good amount of core players there, I still do think there's quite a lot of profiles and even players, I would say, coming towards the end of their contracts in Norwich. Obviously, you look at maybe John Thompson and Dana Warner. Those guys have played pretty much every game for the 21s this season. Despite this being, I think, like their sixth season at the 21s level, which is crazy, really, because they maybe started playing 21s football maybe when they were second-year scholars, and they're still playing it now. So I think maybe something might have gone wrong there, or maybe that's just how football works, right? But those two players are great players in their own right. So there'll naturally be some changeover this year because Norwich have got players out of contract, and they want to try and bring players in, I think, as well, just to try and align into JHT's profile, because I think you've got a lot of players there who are more physically orientated and bring more of those qualities compared to more technical qualities, which Trop actually likes. So we'll see how it transgresses, if that's the word. But definitely a lot of players there that I think who have potential. They just need some time, and I just hope that they get time, and there isn't too much pressure on those guys to make an immediate step up. But it's about patience, really. It's quite an annoying word, I reckon, for the fan base to hear, but there's some good stuff going on. It just needs a bit more time, and I think given maybe some more investment in that 21 squad, because also it's a very light squad as well, then that'd be perfect, I think, for the long term. But overall, I'm positive, mate. But it does truly depend on when Norwich actually are as a club in 5 years as well.
Yeah, all fair points. Right, we've got all the small questions out of the way. Let's just go straight in. The big question: do you think the youth pathway is blocked? I mean, we've probably got a good sense of it, but what would be your overall take on the big question itself?
No, I don't think it's blocked. I just think the academy are at a stage now where they want to try and transition as well. There's been so much turnover, which I don't think maybe much of the fans are appreciating. It feels like that maybe supporters are obviously wanting to give more time to maybe players at first team level, and maybe the coaches there as well, but also the academy need it as well. It's a massive maybe change in terms of how it was before, because obviously maybe the Steve Weaver's maybe final year in the season, as I said earlier, there was just not really much alignment in play style between under 18s and 21 squads. So we just need a bit more kind of time to get to grips with the system. I was expected it, to be honest with you. I did think this season might be quite a I wouldn't say a rough one, but quite a, I wouldn't say, maybe quite a timid one in terms of expectations, because players just need some time to develop in this new system. It's such a complex system. You've got, for example, you've got a number 8 for the under 21s who's probably never really experienced playing as like a right inverted half space winger before in his life, and he was more of like a CDM last season as well. So there's a lot of overhaul and new ideas being portrayed, and I just think we need a bit more time to get to grips with it as well. I don't personally think as well that the under-21 squad is where it's at in terms of what it wants to be in the long-term future. Obviously, I think the conveyor belt is still it isn't as strong as it used to be, but I think that's also natural when you have an academy. You'll have some stronger years than others, but it isn't nothing that I get too worried about. It's just, I think there needs to be a bit more appreciation and respect that there needs to be a bit more time for those for the academy to try and come good again, because I believe there's fairly great people in there who are striving every day for real improvement and success. What they're trying to do is just at times maybe there isn't enough players right now who are matching the level of Norwich as a football club, really. I know JHT's expectations are very high in training, and maybe if it was maybe another manager who may be oriented towards more performances in matches at 21's level, maybe there might be more first team involvement. Sorry, but I just think JHT kind of wants to get like a big idea of these players for himself and seeing them compete against stronger men as such as well. So for me, it's about patience. I firmly do believe that these players will come good, and the players that are in the building, there are quite a few players there who got fantastic ability and potential. Sorry, so hopefully that does get showcased in the near future, really. But Jack, overall, because actually I think it was you that actually suggested this topic. What kind of your overall thoughts? Listen to me, and maybe your overall thoughts before the recording.
I think my general thoughts are that there is probably not the progression that most fans would have liked, but I think we're just sort of drunk on the joys of Aarons, Lewis, Cantwell, Omobamidele. It is an expectation really that there is 1 or 2 stars every season that come through. Then eventually, they then get sold. So maybe we shouldn't have any youth prospects that are absolutely fantastic. Maybe we should have some youth prospects that are just okay, that are pretty steady, that fit the team, and get us to performing well. But there's the answer to the big question. Everyone listening, what are your thoughts on it? Do you think that there needs to be more youth players in the first team? Drop them down in the comments. We always love hearing your comments. Will, where can everyone find all of your brilliant youth content?
Cheers, mate. So many places, really. Obviously, I do a weekly Fessy column covering the academy. Please go check it out. I try my best to cover most of your concerns and inquiries. So obviously, look out for my Fessy pieces on MyFootballWriter, but more importantly as well, Twitter is at YouthNorwich _ and Instagram is Norwich Youth as well. Some great content lined up, really, because it's a big month for the academy. Some big games, and more importantly, the FA Youth Cup game against Bournemouth on Wednesday is going to be a very exciting one, because if they win there, then they go into the 5th round, and they can really make quite a big cut run, which is very impressive. That hasn't happened in recent years as well, so hopefully they can get through the line there. And yeah, that is my main places to find me.
Awesome. All right. Well, thank you everyone for watching. Hopefully we'll have more big questions in the future. Keep an eye out for future podcasts with Will and I, and we'll see you all very soon.